Yeah. Hello, thanks for joining us. We're at Liberty of Wildlife. There's a whole lot of us. For this presentation, it's going to be myself, Chris, and my friend Kristen over there. And then we have another one where we have a couple more volunteers and we'll present completely different birds at about 12:30. So we're an organization. We're just south of Sky Harbor Airport, just about a 10-minute drive east of here. And we take in injured and orphaned animals. We're a rehabilitation organization. All volunteer, nonprofit. And our goal is to release them. We've taken in over 10,000 animals and released them. At the COVID year, we got over 14,000. Isn't that amazing? Think of how many that is per day. So our primary goal is rehabilitation, but we're also into education to let the public know about what we do and about our wildlife. So on cases that we can't release the birds, which is the case with all our animals today, they become education animals. And you'll hear about each one, why they're here, why we can't release them. The other thing we do is we work with conservation. So we have a group of people to go out and help relocate burrowing owls, for example. So that's what we do. We have open hours on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So feel free to come visit us from 10 to 1. All right. So this guy's name is Quanah. And Quanah is a turkey vulture. And the reason we can't release Quanah is that he has a broken right wing. So as he puts his wings up, see how his right wing is a little bit droopy compared to his left wing. And even though he can fly a little bit, he cannot fly well enough to release into the wild. So we have a permit to have him be an education bird. So Quanah was found as a fledgling, which is like a child bird, about 15 years ago in Ajo. And Ajo is a little town southeast of here. And when they found the broken wing, they brought him in and our vet stabilized it. And I brought Quanah for an especially good reason today. A, I really like Quanah. He's got a lot of personality. But B, this time of year is great for turkey vultures. So I don't know how many of you guys did that bird walk this morning, or maybe you're doing one later, but I bet you didn't see a turkey vulture. But you will. This is the time of year that they migrate. So turkey vultures are all over North America during the summer, but most of them don't stay year-round. We do have a few year-round ones in Arizona, but most of them migrate. So right now, they're about to begin their migration. So in about 3 weeks, if you're walking around a preserve or whatever, and you look up, you might see quite a few circling around. And the way to identify them is from a distance. If you have your binoculars, you'll see that they have the red heads, of course. That's the telltale sign. And you'll see that when they're flying up above you, now it's kind of that silvery under feathers, right? It almost looks white when they're above you. The back, of course, is all black. So you'll see how he had his wings spread out a lot, and he's basically absorbing the sun to warm up. They lose a lot of their body temperature overnight. All right, so anybody knows what vultures like to eat?
Dead animals.
Dead animals. They like dead animals. And so having said that, why do you think his head doesn't have feathers, knowing that they're like dead animals? Why do you think he's got that bald head? Yeah, what do you think?
So that they don't get dirty.
That's right. So, yeah, they don't just like dead animals. The deader the better. So if they're really dead, dead, they smell bad, and they rip into the carcasses and dip their heads around, and they get rotting flesh all over their heads, right? But when they're bald like this, the sun will come and dry up the flesh, and it gets it off, so it's more sanitary. So I don't know how well you can see him, but the cool thing when he's up close is you look at the shape of his, we call it a nair, but he has kind of a circle in his beak called an arrow. That's where he smells. And because they hunt carrion, they need to have really good smell, right? So they don't have very powerful talons. The way they do it is they just rip into the bodies. But their superpower is that smell. So their whole brains have this special adaptation that they can smell better than all non-vulture birds. Okay, so it smelled great. And he's kind of tucked his head. And the other thing I like people to see when you're really close is you can actually see his ears behind his eyes. So, I don't know, you really can't see from me. But if you look behind his eyes, you'll see some crescents. And most birds, you can't see their ears because they're covered up with feathers. But these vultures, you can. All right. So, another really cool thing about vultures is that they cleanse the earth. So when they eat dead things, they eat bad things that are found in dead things, like maybe influenza or a sort of bacteria. Botulism, I think, is one. And they have this really strong acid in their stomach. So after they eat it and excrete it, it kills the microbiomes, the microbes, that are bad. And there's actually a story I've read that in India, they actually exterminated a lot of vultures, and the population of disease and death in the humans went up after that happened because they didn't have this cleansing of all the germs. So they're great to have around. Yeah. So another thing I like to point out, he's actually kind of clean, but do you see how he's got the red skin on his legs and feet? But there's also a lot of white over it. So what that white is, he actually urinates on his legs, and when it evaporates, it cools him off. So that's a way that he cools down. So I think that's all I have to say about him. Do you have any questions about Quana or turkey vulture? Yes, back there. Yeah.
What kind of nests do they build?
Yeah, they're not really big into nest builders. They'll just kind of take anything they can find.
They're like a pigeon.
Yeah. Yeah, the ground or in structures or in trees, but they don't really make nests. Yeah.
The difference between a California condor and a turkey vulture? Because they kind of
good question. So another shout out for Liberty. If you come visit us for an open hours, we have a couple of California condors, and you'll see they're like much bigger.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, so California condors are like almost as tall as I am. They're bigger. Their color is slightly different, but yeah, they also have the bald red heads as well. But mainly size. All right, I'm going to put it back, and we'll have our next bird come out.
Yeah, he has dresses around his legs. It's tied to his feet. And it's attached to
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, so I know a lot of you guys have already seen the American kestrel that I have, but this is Aldo, and he is a male American kestrel. And what's really cool about these guys is you can tell the difference between male and female based on their coloration. That is not typical of birds of prey. Usually you cannot tell the difference. That's usually a songbird thing. So the males are going to have that blue-gray color on his wings. The females are not going to have that. And then also the females are going to have streaking across their chest, and the males do not have that either. And also, so American kestrels are super common here. You can find them in every state in the U.S. I see one just about every day. You've probably seen them, but you just didn't know. So typically they'll be on light poles, and they'll be by themselves. They'll be by themselves because they are bird eaters. And no other birds are going to be around this guy. So you can tell their profile. They kind of look like a pigeon from far, or I'm sorry, a dove from far away. But if you see them bobbing their head and bobbing their tail, then you're looking at a kestrel. And so they are the smallest falcon that we have in North America. They're related to the peregrine falcon. And what's characteristic about these guys is they have those stripes underneath their eyes. Those are called malar stripes. And that is thought to help aid them when they're hunting. It deflects the sunlight. So when you see like football players and they have the black under their eyes, same thing with these guys, they just have it naturally. And also what's really cool about kestrels and falcons in general is they have what's called a tomial tooth. So on each side of their beak, they have these notches. And whenever they go after their prey, they'll use their beak to break the spinal cord of their prey. They'll paralyze it so that way they can fly off with it without it thrashing around and potentially hurting them. So all falcons have that. Let's see what else about. So as I said, this is Aldo, and he came to us in 2018. He had a disease called trichomoniasis. So it's a thing that birds get, bird eaters in particular. They'll eat an infected bird, and what this disease is it just kind of coats the inside of their mouth, and it can suffocate the bird if they're not treated. And so he came in with that, and he was treated, but he also showed signs of habituation. So he was very used to humans. And we don't typically like to see that, because if he were to be released, he probably would not survive. So we get a lot of that at Liberty Wildlife, habituation and imprinting. So, and when we decide to keep a bird, we have to get a permit with Game and Fish, and then they say, yeah, you can keep this bird, and we have about 70 education animals. So we have open hours on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. You guys can come and see all of our education birds that we have. We have bald eagles and golden eagles and all of the native wildlife that you can find in Arizona. We have a lot of really cool stuff in this state. So, do you guys have any questions about Aldo? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they do that. It's just a typical thing that they do, and it's just a really good identifier that you're looking at a kestrel. Yeah.
How fast can they fly?
I'm not too sure about the kestrels. I know his cousin, the peregrine, they fly over 200 miles per hour. But with these guys, I'm not sure. I would imagine when they go into a dive and they go after their prey, still pretty fast. But I'm not sure the number. Yeah.
How far can they see?
Ooh. I'm not sure about falcons, but I know hawks can see about a half a mile away. They might be better, but I'm not quite sure. They're good.
Yeah.
Very good eyesight.
Much better than ours.
Much better than ours. So birds have 4 cones in their eyes. We only have 3. So they can see much better than us, and I believe that most birds can see UV light. So everything that we see right now looks way more vibrant to a bird. Any other questions? Okay, thank you guys.
really awkward for me. I'm not a pro like Kristen. I have trouble doing two things at the same time. So I'm just going to try to speak loudly and hopefully you can hear. All right, so this is the first time we've had him out this morning. And I'm going to ask, I heard one person say what it was, but anybody knows what kind of bird this is? Do you know? The Harris hawk. Yeah, this is the Harris hawk. And he's another one of my faves. He's very young. He's a 2022 bird. He's just 2 working on 3. And it's pretty obvious what's wrong with him. Anybody see what's wrong with him? Yes? Yeah, his left wing. So what happened with him is he was actually attacking the gentleman's chickens, and the gentleman was trying to defend his chickens, and he shot poor Bodie, and his wing was just filled with pellets, and he felt really bad after doing that, right? He loves his chickens, he loves birds, and he felt terrible about shooting Bodie. So he picked him up, and he brought him back into Liberty. And Liberty was able to take out all the pellets, etc. But obviously he really can't fly well enough to survive in the wild. So that's why he's an education bird with us now. Okay, so Harris hawks, what do you look for when you see them in the wild? We're kind of spoiled living here because we see a lot of Harris hawks, right? But in the U.S. in general, they're only in the very southern part of the U.S. We do have a few that stay here year-round, okay, but a lot of them still migrate as well. They're found in South America, in Mexico. They love these desert environments, and they're just located in Arizona, southern Arizona, southern New Mexico, and quite a few in southern Texas. So that's where you find them. They can be confused with other things like blackhawks. When you see them in the wild, you look for the yellow beak, the brown color, and the telltale sign when they're flying is the white band. So if you're looking at a hawk flying and you can't see it very quickly, look for those white bands of the tail. That might tell you what it is. So they've got a couple of really interesting behaviors. So they're kind of fun to present in public. So one of them I never had the privilege of seeing, but they've known to stack. That's very unusual behavior where maybe up to 5 birds will actually sit on top of one another, maybe on top of a saguaro cactus. So I've heard stories how in Scottsdale they've seen that stacking behavior. And why do you think they might stack? Some people think that it says to assert dominance. Another way is maybe because they live in these desert environments, we don't have a whole lot of tall trees. Other people think they stack to be able to see better and further. So they're also called wolves of the sky because they exhibit kind of this pack behavior. So they're very social, very social. And if you, like in my neighborhood, which is just North Phoenix, usually I see 3 or even 4 at a time. Okay. A very common will be having 3 living together, and those 3 you'll have alpha female, and when they have eggs, she'll stick around the nest, and then often they'll have 2 males, an alpha male and an alpha beta male, and both are subordinate to the alpha female. And the alpha male will take turns. He'll get food, and he'll also bring food back to the female. And then the beta male will just get food and bring it back. But they both get a chance to mate with the female. It's an interesting lifestyle. So they have packs. Packs can get up to like 5 or 7. And the juveniles often hang around for quite a while once they're adults. They're also known for various hunting styles. So have any of you seen Jurassic Park? Jurassic Park, the dinosaur movie? Yeah, there's a part that I absolutely love in Jurassic Park where you got the hunter guy and he's surrounded by 3 dinosaurs. He goes, "Oh, clever girl," and the dinosaurs just get them. Well, that's one of their hunting styles. They'll like surround their prey and surprise them and get them. And of course, when they work together, they can get larger prey, right, and more nutritious. Another way is kind of a relay attack. So they might just take turns chasing a bird, and eventually they knock him down. And then a third one is just the flush. So they'll find some prey in a bush, and one of the birds will flush the prey out of the bush, and then the others will get it. So very clever working together, and that's very unusual for North American species. Anybody know what they like to eat?
Birds.
They do eat other birds. The study said about 60% are mammals. So bunnies, they love bunnies, hares, things like that. Mice. Cats? Why not? Yeah, small cat. Yeah. So they'll take mammals. At Liberty, we feed them mice every day. I'm very happy. They'll also eat a small amount of reptiles and other birds. Lizard, yeah. So another common thing, he got shot with a gun. But because they're social, one of the big problems with birds is electrocution. So one of the big problems with Harris hawks is electrocution. So a lot of times they'll come to Liberty after they're on a wire, and they stand on, I guess, I'm not an expert on this, but I guess they stand on both wires, drown themselves, they get electrocuted, and because they're families, a lot of times a lot will be sitting on the same wire. So it's that's one of the biggest dangers. And Liberty works a lot with our electric utilities like SRP and ADS to just kind of work with them to, to make some little changes to make them less likely to be hurt. So do you have any questions about Bodie or Harris hawks? Yes, Michael?
Are they territorial?
Yeah.
The reason I ask is we have many near our house, and sometimes another bird will sort of fly in, and you'll see them getting together and chasing the other bird. What's the question?
They're very territorial. It's kind of funny at Liberty. You have the Bodie's a boy. He's very nice and very sweet. Okay? But the ladies, oh my gosh, they yell at you loudly. They're very aggressive, very territorial, especially around their mute. They're not as bad when they're on the glove and they're walking around, but whenever they're near their mute, they'll let you know. Yeah.
And they return to the same nesting sites.
They do.
We're pretty sure they do at our house.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions for our last bird? Oh, yes.
How fast can they fly?
Okay, I'm going to make this up. They go fly 40 miles an hour. It's about that, 40 to 50. Yes.
Have you had any concern with the bird flu?
Yes. Yeah, so have you been to Liberty? So we have a complex, and well, we're actually famous for our condors. So a lot of the condors got flu, and they came down here, and we helped there. But as volunteers, you have to be very careful. So I said we dealt with like over 14,000 birds. That's on one side called the rehab. And these are all ed birds, and we would be heartbroken if the ed birds got the flu. So we have a very sharp line. Like we can't go from rehab to the ed side. And on occasions where we do have to, we have to bleach ourselves. So avian fleas pass through feces, and if we bleach our feet and change clothes and stuff, then we try to mitigate the impact of birds that are brought in on our ed birds. Yeah, very worried about that. Yes?
So you said you bleach your shoes like Clorox, because we have so many birds by us and fruit. We're going there and there's the bird poop all over, and I'm going, we really have to be careful. Let's leave the shoes real where they are, but I didn't know immediately you could close her in, really hot water, but I didn't know what to do with the shoes.
And I don't know the exact mix, but you have something like 30% Clorox and water, but I could be wrong. Liberty would know if you sent an email. Yeah. Any other questions?
How many chicks do they typically have?
They actually have chicks year round. Not a lot of our hawks do that. It's like 1 to 3 typically per cycle. Okay. Kristen, I think we're ready.
All right, yeah, so I heard a couple of you say this is a barn owl. So this is Venus, the barn owl. So we have had her since 2021, and she came to us with an injury on her left foot. She has a toe that isn't quite in the right place, and so she can't really grasp and hold onto her prey. So she wouldn't do very good in her natural habitat because she couldn't hold on to her dinner. So that's why we have her. And yeah, barn owls are super common. You can find them again in every state in the U.S. And they are nocturnal. So what's really cool about them, obviously, is their color. So they are primarily almost entirely white underneath. And then also they have that really cool facial disc. That's what we call that. And hers and barn owls in general, their facial discs are heart-shaped. And so also what's really cool about barn owls and owls in general is they have asymmetrical ears. So their ears are not like ours to where they're symmetrical. They have one ear like up here and down there. So you can see how she's doing this. So most owls are going to do that. That's how they locate things by sound. So they're moving their head around and she's trying to figure out where the noise is coming from. And so with barn owls is they're pretty sensitive to sound. So they can actually, they have these like ear flaps, and so they can close the holes over their ears if things get too loud. So that's pretty characteristic of them. And they also have those really long legs, so they can use that to catch their prey in vegetation or even snow. And so barn owls typically only eat mammals. So they'll eat mice, moles, shrews, things like that. And they can eat, I think one barn owl can eat about 4 a night. And so they eat a lot of rodents. And so one of the major problems with them is rodenticides. So if you have a mouse problem, you know, we like to advocate to just use traps, because if you use poison, that poison, once you have poisoned that rodent, it doesn't go away when that rodent dies. So it actually bioaccumulates up the food chain. And actually the concentration of that poison gets even higher as it goes up the food chain. So it can kill an owl pretty easily. So we definitely advocate for non-rodenticides. And then let's see what else. Yeah, so yeah, they're like I said, they're super common. Oh yeah, they're nocturnal. So they're gonna hunt about an hour after sundown and maybe around midnight. And then they can hunt again about an hour before sunlight. And they can share territory with the great horned owl, and that's actually a predator of theirs. Their babies are a predator, or as a prey to the great horned owl. So if they know that there's a great horned owl in the area, they'll wait to hunt in the dead of night. Whereas the great horned owl is gonna hunt at dawn and dusk. So they will avoid them. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about barn owls or Venus?
Why do they have
they have that? So it's just really advantageous for them because they hunt primarily by sound. So you would think even with the great horned owl and how big their eyes are, it's good for hunting at night, but they're using their ears primarily. So if you have an ear that's, you know, one's up here, one's down here, they're able to really hone in on where a sound is coming from. They'll know whether it's above them or below them based on where their ears are. Any other? Yeah.
How far can they turn their heads?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So you guys have probably heard that owls can turn their heads 360 degrees. How many of you guys think that that's true? No? So that is not true. That is a myth. They can turn their heads about 270 degrees. So still pretty far, but the way that they can do this is because they have 14 vertebrae in their neck, and we only have 7. So that's why they can do that, and also because their eyes are fixed in their sockets. So they can't move their eyes like we can, like back and forth. They have to move their head. So that's what that is. Good question. Any other questions? Maybe? I'm not sure. It's a good question. Maybe that's one that you could Google. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Is that a normal size or is he like smaller?
Yeah, so this is a full-grown owl. And we have 13 species of owl in Arizona. The great horned owl is the biggest.
How much do they generally weigh, this versus the great horn?
Yeah, so they look like a pretty good-sized bird. But, as same with the great horned owl, they're mainly feathers. So she weighs about a pound. Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
1 pound. So, and the great horned owls, as big as they are, they only weigh about 3 to 4 pounds. Even the bald eagles only weigh about 8 pounds, 8 to 10. So, yeah.
You do these lectures, each of you tend to deal with the same birds so they're more comfortable?
Yeah, so we have about 70 education birds, and they're divided up into levels. So you have to start at level 1, and then you can move up. I think level 4 is the highest. You have to build a relationship with the bird. You have to practice with each one 7 times before you can. So to build that relationship. Yeah, a lot of our birds are relationship driven. Any other questions?
Can you speak to their talon grip as well? How much they're doing to you right now versus how much they can actually do?
So I'm not sure about barn owl's talon grip. She's not gripping much at all. The great horned owls, their grip is a lot more. They can grip about 80 to 90 pounds of pressure, but they hold that. We can only, as humans, grip about 40 pounds of pressure. So very, very strong animals. I would assume hers is about the same, maybe a little less because she's smaller. But yeah. Any other questions?
How much can she pick up? Like if she was able to grip more?
Well, they catch small rodents.
Okay.
So, I mean, probably nothing super heavy. Not like the great horned owl.
Okay, the great horn is like double its size or something?
Yeah, it's much larger.
Okay.
And we have one we're going to present as well in a couple hours, but yeah. Yeah, she does that a lot. Yeah, okay, well, thank you guys.